Welcome back, AP Macroeconomics students. Today we're going to talk about topic 3.5, equilibrium in the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. So when we put together aggregate demand and aggregate supply, it looks similar to demand and supply. If we use the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model to show an economy at full employment output, this will help us understand the relationship. So we have the downward sloping aggregate demand curve and the upward sloping aggregate supply curve. Please note, price levels on the y-axis and real GDP is on the x. The price level and the quantity meet at the equilibrium point. This is also where the longer aggregate supply curve exists. We have what's called output gaps. There's a few ways that the AP test can describe each state of the economy. Full employment, which is the long-run equilibrium, the economy is at a potential output. Or an inflationary gap, this is above or beyond full employment, which has a positive output gap. A recessionary gap is below or less than full employment, creating a negative output gap. For instance, the economy can only be in one of three places at any time. It can either be at a negative output gap. This is signified in the PPC by the green point below the line. This is signified on the bottom of the business cycle. The second point is the yellow full employment, which is on the line in the PPC and on the line on real GDP. And then the red dot, which is a positive output gap, which exists outside the PPC and at the very peak of the business cycle. So here's an example. Assume the government increases spending. What happens to the price level and the output? Here we have an increase in the aggregate demand, creating a new price level and a new equilibrium point. In this case, the price level rose and the quantity rose. An inflationary gap is a positive output gap. In this case, output is high and employment is less than the NRU. Actual GDP is above potential GDP. We'll assume consumer spending falls. What happens to the price level and the output? Here we have a decrease in aggregate demand, which causes the price level to decrease and the quantity to decrease. This creates a recessionary gap or a negative output gap. Output is low and unemployment is greater than the NRU. So the actual GDP is below the potential GDP. Here's a video to help explain. Thank you.